Well, folks, part of the story is where we cover the Philippines and what's going on here and the growth of soccer, of course. But we're going overseas, an international event for us it is, because for the very first time on the Ball Report, our next guest is an international interview. It's a very special one. He's a damn hard person to get hold of. He's a media industry professional for at least 35 years. I've known him for 40, but I'm still 27 years old. His speciality in sports is production, and he's a very, very up-to-date on-air host as well. But he's going to tell us he's into something else as well. We welcome Alf De Blasis from Toronto, Canada. So, Alf, in the sense, good morning.
Good morning to you. Good evening here at our end of the world. But thank you very much for having me on, Peter.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Of course, you and I, we go back more than 35 years. We were perhaps the pioneers of keeping football or soccer in Canada alive, knocking on the media doors. You were involved in television and radio, of course, which you still are. I was involved in TV and radio, but this side of the world, I said I was going to retire. I lasted 6 months and said, hell, there's football here in the Philippines.
Couldn't stay away. You couldn't stay away. Of course not. Well,
I couldn't do that.
We, as you correctly said, we go back quite a long ways, certainly 25, maybe even 30 years. It's been quite some time, and always enjoyed our conversations about the beautiful game here and abroad. So looking forward to doing the same with you 12 hours apart.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, Alf, when I look back, and I was telling Renee, our producer, I said he's a very, very factual, up-to-date guy. I said, I'm the rebel. He was he's sort of the Italian counselor in a sense, because when we had him on TV, folks, I've got to tell you this, we had him on TV and we had him on radio. We used to introduce him because he used to cover Serie A. That's an Italian league for some of the people over here, not too familiar. And we always used to use the music of The Godfather. And then Alf would listen to this. And then we'd come in and we'd try to impersonate The Godfather, saying, hey, we made him an offer he cannot refuse. It's Alf De Blasis. But anyway, talking about that, Alf, I'm going to sideline this. The big news is Ronaldo. He sort of was criticizing the COVID-19 testing system. And perhaps you can bring us up to speed. What happened?
Well, part of the situation goes back to when he was still with the club, with Juventus, prior to his joining his national team. And at the time, the Juventus club, because some of their youth players had contracted the virus, it was asked of the senior players as well to go into some form of isolation. And Ronaldo, amongst other players, he wasn't the only one, but Ronaldo chose to leave the isolation to join his national team of Portugal for the international break, the Nations League matches. And while he was on that trip, he contracted the virus. So, of course, Juventus was none too happy that occurred. He did return immediately upon testing positive. He has been quarantining for a period of 2 weeks. And there was all expectation was that he would return to play a very significant Champions League match against Barcelona. And he did not, because he failed a second coronavirus test. So there's a bit of a scandal in that, he wasn't necessarily given the permission to leave the club at the time, but he chose to depart and to join up with his Portuguese teammates. And as was the case, he contracted the virus. So, bit of a tug of war at the moment between Ronaldo and obviously his agent and his people and Juventus. And certainly, it was a situation whereby that you cannot necessarily, under current regulations, you can't prevent a player from joining up with his national team if he's been called into the squad for the upcoming match, for a competitive match. But these are unusual circumstances, as you know, and Juventus wanted to keep a tight lid on players venturing out of their club, and in this case, that wasn't the case, and he's now continuing to quarantine.
Now, he obviously wasn't dressed for the Barcelona game, and perhaps you can bring us up to speed on the final result there.
Juventus lost by a result of 2-0. They went down to 10 men late in the match. It was 1-0 for the better part of the match, and they were still in the match through the balance of the game, but they did go down to 10 men quite late, and then Barcelona sprung for a second goal. Mind you, Juventus did put the ball in the net 3 times, but on all 3 occasions, Alvaro Morata, who was the goal scorer on all 3 occasions, was called offside correctly, because they were all reviewed by the video assistant referee, and in all 3 cases he was in fact offside. So Juventus had the opportunity certainly to at least take a point from the match. They did not, and they're now on 3 points, whereas Barcelona is on 6 points, having won both of their matches. So that's where it stands at the moment, going into match week number 3.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the Philippines, there's a lot of interest in the European soccer, and of course the Champions League there. I'm sure that some Juve fans will be very disappointed. Barcelona, it always seems to be in the media, not always for the good things. No. I mean, we've been covering for the last, recently, our last 2 programs about Messi and Suarez. We called them the brothers of football there, but they certainly departed when Barcelona's president decided, hey, we got to get rid of Suarez, whether it be money, but whether it be politics, probably more on politics. So what has happened now? We said that this story will not go away.
Well, and it looks like the story won't go away, but the gentleman has gone away. The president of Barcelona, Jose Maria Bartomeu, has in fact resigned. And in fact, the majority of the board on the club has resigned. And it looks as if it was a bit of a preemptive move, because there was going to be an election very soon with regards to the board and the position of president of the club. And as you know, Barcelona is a club that is owned in various shares by its supporters. Really, it's a community club to some extent, and there was going to be an election very soon, and I think the writing was on the wall, and Bartomeu saw that his position was quite untenable, and rather than go through the embarrassment of being replaced as president, he simply chose to step away at this time. And of course, this comes on the heels of a very bitter dispute with Lionel Messi, who had asked the club if he could arrange for his departure from the club. And there was a contractual dispute between his group and Barcelona, in that he believes that they had promised him that they would grant his wish to leave the club at the end of last season. That was not the case, and Messi has reluctantly stayed at Barcelona, and is, professional as he is doing all that he can to keep Barcelona at the forefront, not only of La Liga, the Spanish league, but also the Champions League. But at this moment in time, it looks like that bit of tug of war, the last stage of it, he seems to have won, because Bartomeu has decided that he's had enough, and he's left the club, which really leaves the club in a bit of a disparate situation at the moment, because they don't really have a leader at the top, and there's going to be probably a snap election will need to be done prior to a decision being made on who now becomes and who steps into the role.
So Alf, obviously, as you mentioned, it partly owned between the, let's call it the fans, well, the members.
Yeah.
So there was 20,000 votes, negative votes against the president. So I'm not surprised on that. But when you look back, who really picked the team? I always thought, and I gave an opinion, I thought that the board or the president picked the team on the match day.
Well, you have to wonder what what the structure and balance, where the balance of power is at this club, because they've gone from manager to manager now in the past 3 years, and they're on, I think, their third manager in a little over 2.5 seasons with Ronald Koeman. Obviously, there's a great amount of pressure that comes from the top, that comes from upper management, that comes from the ownership structure. It weighs heavily on the technical staff as well as the players. That when there is so much dissension and division within the club, that it's going to have some kind of an impact on Barcelona. And it's no surprise that last season the club did not come away with a single trophy. I mean, they were not in the running for the Spanish championship. They fell short of the Champions League. They were a distant competitor in the domestic cup competition. So it was one of those seasons that a lot of blame was shared amongst a number of individuals, and even Lionel Messi took his share of the blame, probably not fairly, but certainly he a lot of it was put on his shoulders as well. But at the moment, I mean, it just seems as if there's a lot of discord and a lot of dissension within the club, and it's really going to be up to the manager at the moment, Ronald Koeman, who has a past with the club as a player, and certainly seems to be respected by a lot of his players. Should try to find the path forward for the club. And they've had a decent start to the league. They're not that far off. They've had a great start in the Champions League, as I said, with 2 consecutive wins, one away from home at Torino in the past 24 hours. So there's certainly optimism, I would think, but there's never a shortage of concerns and problems and polemics in that club.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, the story will continue, no doubt. I mean, Messi, as we know, has got a very complicated contract. It's not easy. They can just step out. Manchester City obviously have the money if they were to step in the for him. But with Messi, one concern I have before we move on is that Messi's only played in one league. It's not like Ronaldo's played in several leagues.
True.
So the big risk with City is, and the money is, can Messi stand the pace of the EPL? The EPL is bigger, stronger, and very professional. Very professional indeed. But Alf, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back, folks, after this short message. You know what? Welcome to the world's greatest game of football. You can be smart, you can play smart, whatever your sport. You dress like a pro for your favorite football team. It could be the shirts, the shorts. Best in selection, best in price is Bad Beat Sportswear. It's your team selection. Bad Beat Sportswear is your winner. Of course, that again was a very special guest from Toronto, Canada, Alf De Blasis. And as we mentioned, folks, he is a pillar of support to football. That's Alf De Blasis. Of course, with all the information that we had from Toronto, Canada, Alf De Blasis, we're going to continue with more of his thoughts. And I want to take this opportunity to say thanks to our production team, Ian, Ben, and of course, Renee, our producer, because he puts up with me all the time. And don't forget me as well, the host, Pete Irvine. Please join us next Friday, and you have a safe week. Share, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for news, interviews, breaking stories. Thanks for watching On the Ball Report.